Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Angle Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Andrew. We have a fun exercise today. We have a Dynasty basketball specific mock draft that we are going to do. And in this mock draft, we are only going to draft players that are aged 23 or younger. In Dynasty basketball, many people are quite obsessed with accumulating young talent and draft picks on their roster. They are trying to build themselves an elongated future window of competition by having a team with the same age group potentially moving forward. So we are basically going to do an exercise of that today. Before I bring in my co-host, we are going to go through a mock draft where we will be drafting 30 players. All will be under the age of 23. You will hear a little bit of our thoughts on them from a dynasty perspective. So Mitchell, my partner who does all of our draft content with us here at Angle, is of course one of the Angle analysts. How are you today, dude?
Really good, man. I'm super excited for this because this exercise not only covers their current value of where they are in the dynasty landscape, but it allows us to kind of predict where they're going to be in the future. So, like players that are rookies right now, like maybe a VJ Edgecombe, we can draft them a little bit higher than their perceived value because, it is our duty to predict future value for, these younger players, whether it is breaking into the top 20, top 15, top 10 at some point. This is a fun exercise to kind of see who we're high on our own dynasty list, but also kind of feel each other out, engage in the conversation. And what's really interesting about this exercise is that a lot of the players entering their fifth year are not eligible for this exercise because they just turned 24. So think of, exciting prospects like J-Dub or Jalen Johnson, Franz
Denny
Wagner,
Avdia. Yeah.
Danny Avdia, right? They're still on the younger side, but they're not going to be eligible for this list. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the more younger side of these type of prospects in the dynasty landscape and really identify that talent and give you our thoughts on who we think could be a potential breakout candidate 1 to 2 to 3 years out.
Exactly, exactly. And so the way this will be set up is the roster format will be very similar to what you and I are accustomed to in 30-team dynasty leagues, where it'll be two guards, two forwards, one center, one flex spot, six bench spots, and then three spots for a minors eligible player. And in this criteria, it represents a player who has played less than 82 career games. So that'll likely be rookie stashes for us, guys who, might not be in the regular rotation yet, but are soon going to be. Like an example of that would be Jalen Tyson last year. So the draft room is set up. The draft room is actually live right now. Mitchell, you are on the clock. So it's just you and I drafting today, but in the random order, you did get number one pick. We have 30 minutes per pick. We're obviously not going to need to take that long to get that going, but let's go ahead and dive into the draft room here and let's solve the mystery of who Mitchell's going to take number one overall.
Yeah, Andrew, I think this one is a real no-brainer for me, and it's really putting you on the spot on who you prefer at the number 2 and 3 selections. But for me here, Victor just made his return from his calf injury. He had a remarkable uh, game against the Oklahoma City Thunder that are surging for that historic season, and Victor put a stop to that campaign of the in-season tournament cup. And super exciting here with Victor. I think he's the best prospect we've ever seen coming out of the draft, being 7'6", 7'5", however you want to claim he is with the 8 foot wingspan. He'll give you every single categorical category. And yeah, I mean, Victor number one here is a no-brainer for a 23 and under draft, let alone all dynasty drafts.
All right. So he goes with Victor Wembanyama. That game last night was so cool. I know both you and I were watching that Western Conference final side of the NBA Cup. Uh, even though he didn't play the whole game, only played 20 minutes, especially saving those last few minutes for the final quarter. And he just made such a difference when he was in there. He was so good. So, what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to take one of the main guys who is going to be battling Wembanyama, not only in the Western Conference, not only in the state of Texas, but also on an international level. If this guy ever wants to win a gold medal for Team USA, he's got to go through Victor Wembanyama. But this is another almost a no-brainer here. This is probably the next highest guy on our dynasty rankings within this age criteria, and that's going to be Cooper Flagg. Looking a lot better lately, especially since he's been moved off of this primary point guard role that they started him out with. So really, really great to see the progression that he's had. All the hype has been met so far. Cooper Flagg looks really good. But this is, of course, a snake draft. So I get another pick here. And, ooh, so many choices for myself. I might do a bit of a hot take here because this is somebody I personally rank pretty high. Maybe somebody else
Mm.
does not have him this high. I'm going to take the man whose autographed jersey is behind me right there, Alperen Sengun. There is somebody else that you are quite fond of, Mitch, that I probably could have taken here, but Sengun's one of my favorite players. Especially because we're building this from a dynasty landscape, you kind of have to keep your roster in mind. Now I've got my center out of the way as well too. That's something that I always like to do. But yeah, Sengun is even better this year. I know sometimes some percentages hurt him. Like in the last year, he was in like that 60s range. This year, he's in the top 20 because those percentages improved a lot. So with his age in top 20 production, plays center. One of the best players that Houston has. I went with Sengun here. So that's more of a personal preference. Maybe somebody else has a different player higher. But I have Sengun personally as a top 10 asset.
I really like that pick actually because Sengun is raising his assist rate. With Fred VanVleet out, we kind of assumed that Amen Thompson would take that primary playmaking duties, but it actually shifted to Sengun, bumping up his assists from like 4 to 5 to 7 now. So I love that pick, Andrew. We're seeing the evolution of his game. We see him more as like a Sabonis plus because Sengun does provide those stock numbers that Sabonis simply doesn't, which is really exciting, especially because I'm not sure that Fred is going to come back from an injury, given that he is a smaller guard that, needs the ball in his hands. And with that ACL injury, it's just so unsure that now that he's in his 30s. So Sengun is a great value pick here. Uh, for my next pick, this one is, probably going to be Amen Thompson here. Yes, there was a lot of hype with him to start the year, and he hasn't fully lived up to his expectations. But over the last 3 months, he's continually improved, getting used to and more acclimated to his new role. His scoring numbers have popped over the last month or so, and his free throw percentage is remarkably higher than his brother. And over the last 2 years or so, shooting free throws at 80%. Not sure if it sticks, but it's definitely promising. Stock numbers are increasing to what we have seen in the past, but we want to see those block numbers raised that kind of led him to be that unicorn type of profile. It's just not there right now, but we know it's uh, capable with his athleticism, and that's something that I hope uh, that we see moving forward. Let me draft him. So, Amen Thompson, my number two pick. And then pairing Wembanyama and a man with those kind of stock type builds, I'm going to take Chet Holmgren, Victor's rival,
I
just
knew it.
because you knew it. Yeah, I got to go with the Twin Towers, the two unicorns, the two aliens, whatever you want to call them, locking down those block numbers. Chet is still very young. He provides a little bit of everything, just like Wemby, but to a smaller scale. And no one's gonna beat this team in stocks with Victor, Amen, and Chet. I think Chet still has a lot of untapped potential. He's improved from last season, kind of towards his second year. So he's providing top 30 numbers back up from the top 40, top 50 range from last season. So Chet is back on the rise here. He's still a top 15 asset in my mind. So yeah, Chet Holmgren here as my third pick.
All right. So I know you talked about going from number two kind of puts you in a rough spot. Is this range right here the rough spot that you're referring to? Because it feels like a bit of a rough spot to me.
Yeah, yeah. Just because, like, on the turnaround, if you had the first pick, you had that pull of Sengun, Amen, Chet. After that, it's kind of up in the air and totally up to your preference because now we're kind of looking in that top 20, top 30 range prospects now that, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Johnson, J-Dub, Franz, they're not eligible for this particular exercise. Are you having the same thoughts here?
Yeah, there's so many directions we can go in this one right here. There's some people who think there's an obvious answer, but for nine category basketball, which is what today's mock draft is for, the answer isn't super obvious. There is a few options here that I could go with. Um, Geez. So one of these options is a great scorer, probably one of the highest scoring players in this range. Has some efficiency issues, but definitely like star level production on offense. Other options, one of the better prospects we've seen in a long time from a guard forward perspective, and top two pick from a couple of years ago, who's kind of offering similar to like what Chet's offering right now.
I had a
Hmm.
feeling you were looking at Sarr too.
Yeah, that's one of them. That's probably my three that I'm at right here. And I mean, I make two back-to-back picks, so I guess I'm going to be safe on getting two of these guys for sure. So since I do have two back-to-back picks, I'll make the first one, who's probably controversial first, and maybe we'll talk about him for a second. I'll take Paolo right here. I know there's people who do not like him for nine category basketball, and that's fair. That is fair. However, the offensive production is something that you kind of have to roll with in a nine category setting just because it is tough to find 20 point per game scores. You know, very much in the top, like after the top portion of the draft. He gets good rebounds as well and some out of positions assists for a forward. I think he even has center eligibility on Yahoo.
Oh
So he
wow.
did deal with that injury this year. And there isn't a lot of defensive output as well, too. So I guess if I had this decision where I can only pick one person and not two. There's a possibility I did not take Paolo here, but from the kind of just pedigree of prospect that he is and the production that he can that he's able to achieve, I had to take him here because I do have a second pick after this. If I only had one, might not do it. So Paolo's the first one. Now for the second one here, couple different options that I do like. One of them is more looking at future outlook. The other one is looking for both future and some pretty good production right now. So I'm gonna just take a look at how Alex Sarr is, what that injury is like right now.
He hasn't
19.8
played in
rebounds.
almost a month now.
He hasn't played in almost a month now. No climb table for his return. Good Lord. Okay, so the pick here is going to be between Alex Sarr or Dylan Harper, would be
Ooh,
the other
love
option
it.
for me. Probably right here. Harper's looked good. Has looked great so far for the in-season tournament. A lot of poise for a rookie so far. Shooting doesn't look too great this season, but I do like what I've seen from Harper so far. Um, my gut
You,
is telling
you
me
know who actually kind of fits your team build with Sengun and Paolo? Josh Giddey. He's still
he
eligible
does.
for
That's
this
true.
exercise.
That's true. I think Giddey is kind of close to this range as well, for us. Let's see. He does fit the going for a lot of volume and maybe throwing some percentages out the window, perhaps free throw percentage with both Sengun and Paolo on the roster. Yeah, you are right, Mitch, even though you're trying to help me out a little bit here. Let's take Josh Giddey for this one because he should be in this range as well too. Both Sarr and Harper in this range. That might be something that you're going with, so maybe I'll help you out a little bit too here. But what are you thinking now for your turn after this one? I kind of just took three straight volume-based guys off the board here.
Yeah, man, I think you made my decision very easy. Sarr really fits that build with like
He
Victor,
does.
Amen, Chet, like a big man or like a wing or however you want to call it, that does a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Block
we'll help each
shots.
other's builds out a little bit too here.
Yeah. And it may not even just be about build. It could just be best value. Like Josh Giddey, Paolo, Sarr, all around that top 30 range for us. So it's really up to personal preference here and how you see their outlook looking. But for Alex Sarr, Washington is really relying on him as being their, one of their top two guys offensively and defensively. They're still waiting for that number one primary option that they're looking to seek out in the 2026 drafts. Maybe it's a Darren Peterson, maybe it's a AJ DeBonsa, but Alex Sarr is that defensive anchor that does a little bit of everything. He improved his efficiency this year. He's gotten a lot stronger, and he has those out of position assists that you really love to compliment Wemby and also Chet. Averaging those 3 to 5 assists per game is especially valuable for a center prospect. So I'm going to go ahead and take Sarr, and he's someone that I've always had really high hopes for. And, I think I kind of just solidified, the big man in this build. So then my next one, you already touched upon it. He needs no introduction. I'm gonna go ahead and take Dylan Harper. I love his rim finishing. He's one of the better guard prospects that we've scouted and projected here at Angle. We've been here for 3 years now, and Harper's at rim finishing is insane at those Kyrie S levels. He's a future star, and he just got forward eligibility over the last week. So something to consider as well when building out your roster for that flexibility. So Dylan Harper here, I think he's the guard of the future. And if this were a real team, just like my Angle team at Dynasty, at our Angle Dynasty League, having Harper and Wemby at the same time is a treat to watch for every Spurs game.
All right. This next one feels pretty easy to me. I'm gonna go VJ Edgecombe for my next pick. VJ has looked awesome. Finally back from that injury that was plaguing him a little bit to begin this year. But lately, so what? 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.3 steals. Looks great. 38% from three. Can't ask for much more out of a rookie, especially a rookie who's being tossed into a team that did have some good veteran leadership, but two of those main veterans are obviously hurt. So, this is VJ and Tyrese Maxey's team now. So definitely like what we've seen from VJ so far. Liked him a lot coming out of college as well too. He was always our number 3 player off the board for Dynasty basketball. So just really glad to see things going the way they should be for VJ. We thought he was going to be a little bit more raw than this, and he's actually shown up pretty polished here. So a little bit ahead of the curve of what we expected for VJ Edgecombe. Now my next pick gets a little tricky. There's a few different options here. There's one guy coming off of a historic season, another guy that I liked a lot out of the pre-draft process a couple of years ago, almost 3 years ago now. He has been dealing with some injuries. He is really good when he's healthy. And then maybe the safest option of the three. The safest option of the three that I was going to be looking into is probably Ausar Thompson. That defensive output is pretty crazy, and I don't have a ton of guys on my team so far with serious defensive output. Maybe VJ Edgecombe was probably the first one I got. And Cooper Flagg's defensive output is pretty good too. But Sengun contributes a little bit. Paolo, not really. And Giddey, not really either. So we need a little bit of help on the defensive side here. This is also a prospect I just highly believe in general. The more minutes he gets, the better he gets, especially if his minutes get closer to the 30s, then perhaps his output will look pretty similar to his twin brother Amen. I can't let you get all the Thompsons, Mitch. I had to take the
Oh
other one here.
man, I was looking forward to a Sarr.
I had
Uh,
to go with the two hyper athlete pairing there with VJ and Asar. We could jump over a bus with those two.
yeah, yeah. Part of the fun of fantasy is drafting players that you love to watch, and Asar is a highlight reel. VJ is the next iteration of Dwayne Wade in some capacity. Fearless, athletic, rim runner, everything in the fast break that you want to see. So yeah, I love those two picks there, Andrew. You really honed in on those defensive output, but still, with VJ too, he has that offensive upside that maybe can reach that 20, 25 point per game peak in his career. Ah man, this next one, I kind of wanted to go more like wing, kind of guard. But I think the value here on Jalen Duren is just too good to
Ooh,
pass up.
I
And I
like
think
this.
he's so good, man. Like
We're
the
giving Detroit
assists.
their shine right now. Asar last pick. Let's get Duran going here. Yeah, this Detroit
Exactly,
core just
yeah.
looks so good.
Yeah. The core is remarkable right now. He's such a great lob threat next to Cade Cunningham. And, the defensive concerns that we've seen over the last season or two are no more. Duren has put a lot of emphasis on the defensive end for his development. Detroit is one of the top defenses this season, and Duren is the defensive anchor holding it down for them, and he's a huge reason for their success. And he's putting up career numbers: 18 points per game, 11.3 rebounds, 1.8 assists, and almost a steal and a block a game, while upping his free throw percentage while also shooting 65% from the field. So Jalen Duren is looking like prime Dwight Howard here. And yeah, can't pass him up here, especially in the sixth round for our exercise. The next one, I'm going to go with my other fan favorite of last year's draft. I'm going to go reach Sheppard here. He's showing a lot of
Ooh.
promise as of late. You know, yes, he's not starting, he's getting some spot starts, but he is in the top 50 right now in nine category as of today because of his steal numbers, because of his insane per minute production and those deflection rates that you love to see from a smaller guard. I think the free throw should climb up. I don't believe he is a 71% free throw shooter. Yes, it is on low volume, but he's such a great shooter, shooting 44% from three, 48% from the field. He's a great guy to have, especially as he's developing his role here and gaining confidence, game in and game out. So Reed Sheppard here, our number two prospect from our 2024 draft board. Happy to take him here and pair him up next to Amen Thompson.
All right. Let's keep the theme going of exciting whites. I'm taking Kon Knueppel here.
Ooh, love
There was
that.
a
Love
teammate of
that.
his I was debating on, but I'm gonna go with the Hornet, who everything is going super well for right now, and that is Kon Knueppel. Um, he we were not high enough on him coming into the draft. Would you agree with that, Mitch?
Yeah, we were not. I mean, we
I mean,
barely
we
had him
we
in the late
definitely did not think
lottery.
he was bad. I remember specifically stating that he was probably the safest prospect in the top five that you can get. Like the most like anti-bust prospect you can get, just because I thought there was such a good floor with the shooting. But what we didn't really see at the time was just this kind of star level player upside, the type of production that he's putting in as a rookie. 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists as a rookie, and he's well, field goal percentage is in the 50%, but he is shooting 40% from three and 90% from the floor. So if that field goal percentage goes up a little bit, then he's, flirting with the 50, 40, 90 club. But, Knueppel has been a high level player at every single level that he's been at: high school, college, now at the NBA. So, yeah, things just going super, super well for him right now. Congrats to you guys who got him pick five or pick six in your startup rookie draft. Maybe you saw Ace Bailey and Tre Johnson selected before you got Kon. Huge steal for quite a bit of dynasty managers coming into this year. So, things are just going too well for Kon right now not to take him, because a couple of my other options are having a shaky start to this season, either whether it be their first year or if we're comparing it to last year. But for this next person, I'm going to stop the slide for him right now. He's sliding a little bit, and then there's some serious believers in this guy who are probably getting driven crazy by the slide that's going on with him right now. But in my opinion, the slide's a little bit justified. I just took Dyson Daniels as my next pick after Kon Knueppel. With Dyson, it's pretty hard, obviously, to replicate a historic level of steals per game at the 3 steals per game that he was at last year. He's at 2 this year, which is still elite if we're talking nine category fantasy basketball. It's still really, really good. What's hurting him is the offensive production going down after the Hawks got a little more stacked. So we're talking 14 points to 11 points per game. The assists and rebounds did go up a little bit, but that the steals was really, really carrying him, because he doesn't make threes and he's not good from the free throw line as well, too. So he does help a little bit in the field goal department, but his shot volume's so low that it's not really that useful. So what you're pretty much getting him for at this point is the rebounds, assists, and steals. But if you just want to make the bet on the steals always being elite, always remaining above 2 steals per game, with some peripheral stats, then yes, in a nine category setting, he is useful. And I mean, Mitchell, for whatever reason, I was surprised to see him in our player pool. it just feels like he's been in the NBA so long because he has. I'm pretty sure he was drafted when he's 18, but for whatever reason, I didn't think Dyson Daniels met our age criteria of 23, and he's actually 22. Doesn't it feel like he's been around for quite a bit?
Yeah, I mean, because he surfaced in scouting with the G League Ignite. So he's been playing against, two-way level NBA competition since he was 17, 18 years old. And also being one of the younger prospects of the 2022 draft. Yeah, it does feel like he's been here for a while. And I want to kind of ask you a question about Dyson. Does it concern you that, last season he was what, ranked 19th? And then this season, he's ranked 96th.
Absolutely.
Is
It
there some sort of median that you think his career outcome is? Like, he's not going to be a barely top 100, player in
No, he's
redraft
not.
leagues.
He's not.
Like, I,
But like this time last year, if we did this exact same exercise last year, he would have gone up in this range where like, Sarr, Giddey, Harper, and Edgecombe are at. We would have taken him somewhere
Mhm.
up there. So, I think he's exited that top 30 conversation for now. So far, that just lasted last year when he was at the 3 steals per game, which again, that was really hard to replicate. But you can still value him, let's say, in like the 50 to 70s range in a dynasty setting. I think that things should be better than the 97 that he's at right now. But it is obviously a concern with this, it just goes to show how much it was carried by those 3 steals per game last year, because even though he's still at two, which is elite in a 9 category setting, he's not doing much else to help himself besides just some assists. The rebounds are okay. Obviously there's much better rebounders out there. So, assists and steals, okay rebounds with um, slightly below average point per game, and no help in the free throw or threes department. So it definitely is a little bit of concern. And this is always a player that, for people who drafted him like as a rookie in a dynasty setting, the bet was always that he figures out some type of 3-point shot. It's like below 20% right now. So if that day does come where he is able to figure it out, then things will obviously be looking a lot better for him. And perhaps even there's even an argument that I shouldn't have taken him right here. There's perhaps an argument that I should have taken someone else right here. There might be somebody who now values him like, thought it was a fluke season and values him around like the 80s or 90s range in Dynasty. And I can't really argue too much with you, but I do still think there is some belief for him to at least come back with like some 50s to 60 range output seasons in a 9 category setting in the future.
yeah, I think there is that medium for Dyson, and I don't think that primary ball handler role really suits him. I know Jalen Johnson is kind of taking that Trae Young role, but Trae Young really helped Dyson's value, creating those open looks and shots for a Dyson Daniels, where he's only averaging 0.2 threes a game this season, where last year he averaged 1.1. So I think when he is a secondary creator, his value should move a little bit more higher towards that like top 50, top 40 range, where we do expect him to kind of bounce back. But yeah, I do agree that with you, Andrew, that Dyson should be valued a little bit higher than his current production. Barely in the top 100. I think he is a top 50 player when kind of the rotation kind of settles itself out in Atlanta. Okay. The next pick, I'm kind of curious about Brandon Miller's situation. I haven't really watched too much Charlotte Hornets, but is it just that Kon Knueppel is a better player than Brandon Miller? I know Brandon Miller missed some time earlier this season. He hasn't really bounced back, but he's someone that we thought was a top 30, top 35 asset, coming into the year, but his production just dipped uh pretty significantly. Um and if I were to take him here, it's just like a bet that he'll bounce back, but shooting 36% from the field, 28% from three, 16 points, less than three rebounds, and three assists. I don't know if I can kind of justify taking him here, even though he was such a high level player last year. Um, Andrew, can you give your quick thoughts on Brandon Miller before I make my next selection? Because,
I do like
this
Miller.
is, you do like
Yes.
Miller.
Yeah, I mean, there was somebody that I always believed in that pre-draft process. You knew that I liked him, even borderline more than Scoot, and somehow I had the premonition that Miller was going to kind of end up with a better career. I mean, Injury proneness is very, very fair to bring that into consideration here. Maybe the obvious option behind Victor was actually Amen Thompson and neither Miller nor Scoot Henderson. It was taking one of the Thompson twins at two instead is probably what should have happened. But the just decrease from last season to this season. I mean, he's at 9 games played, 27 minutes a night. So the 2 seasons prior, his rookie year and his sophomore year, he was over 30 minutes per night. So the minutes load, I mean, Charlotte did load up a little bit more, especially in the backcourt. And then obviously you have the emergence of Kon Knueppel as well. Like, do we need Brandon Miller scoring 20 points per game if Kon Knueppel is also doing so? I mean, it would be nice from a Hornets perspective. You have LaMelo involved as well, Miles Bridges too. So there's kind of a lot of mouths to feed, but Miller is a super high level prospect. And obviously, I would like for the Hornets to maybe not prioritize Miles Bridges as much as they are right now. I think that should go towards Miller. So I think Miller is still fine to pick. I do think that I would give a lot more credit to injuries kind of upsetting this season so far than I would for some other guys. I think he's just having a hard time figuring things out with the injury and then emergence of some other guys who are able to absorb quite a bit of the scoring load for Charlotte, such as Knueppel.
So I'm gonna give it back to you really quick. In your next update, we're targeting a December release. Where are you putting Brandon Miller in your personal ranks?
Um,
Because this one's a hard one.
he's definitely still top 60. I want to say top 50 still, for sure top 60, probably top 50. Yeah. Top
Like I
like
I
really
can't
close
put
to
him
30. I
over
don't know about that
Khan though.
anymore. Huh?
I can't put him over Khan anymore though. I mean, like when the
Right.
team's healthy, Khan is just playing a much better role with better efficiency.
Right.
If they're both not providing stocks, they're both
Well, we
secondary
talked about Khan in the
playmakers.
50s. So if I say top 60 for Miller, maybe Khan's just slightly ahead, then maybe that's what we end up with.
Okay, that's definitely fair, but it is a pretty steep
It is.
decrease,
It is because he was another person like Dyson who should have been up in this range last year, speaking up in this range
right?
of Sarr, Giddey, Harper, Edgecombe. That's where they were at last year.
Right. And I just don't think we could have predicted enough how great Kon Knueppel was going to be, I
Yeah.
think.
Yep.
All right. So sorry,
Because we're
enough
past
of
we're past the point where it's a hot start for Khan. We're a quarter way into the season and he's still doing this. So
right. He's just that good of a player.
yep.
And great pick for you, by the way, in the seventh round with Kon. But now, really quick on my end, I'm going to go ahead and take Stephon Castle,
Oh my
another
God.
Spur
Damn
player.
it. Damn it.
He's looked
No.
so
He
damn
looks
good.
so good, man.
So
Like
good.
like
He's fearless. The
yes,
rim
we got all
finishing
those
is there.
questions of like, how are the Spurs going to balance Fox, Harper, Castle? It's at the point now where all three of them are so good, it doesn't matter. They're all three going to get their minutes. It's the other peripheral players, shout out to Jeremy Sohan, that are getting hurt here. Not those three. Those three have to play Harper, Castle, Fox. So not a loser between those three. The losers are the other guys. Pretty much everybody else besides Wemby and Keldon Johnson are getting hurt here by just that trio of Castle, Harper, and Fox needing to be on the floor all the time. Shout out to DNP CD, Jeremy Sohans.
Yeah, DNP didn't play last game in the world or in the in-season tournament, but yeah, man, I love watching Castle. He's so fearless. He's so strong, like at the rim, having those contact dunks, playing next to Wemby, playing next to Harper. I think like the assist percentage bump that he's seeing this season is a huge surprise to me. I know that we haven't really seen him play too much alongside all three guards. A lot of different injuries at different points of the timeline of this season, but last night all three meshed really well together, and it gives me some belief that Castle can sustain that production. And he's someone I'm really excited on, and he's probably my third best prospect of that 2024 class. Okay, next. This one is interesting because you can go so many different ways, and I think I'm gonna go another big here. Someone that I think can really stuff the stat sheet. You're gonna be probably pissed because he would fit your team extremely, extremely well, especially next to Shingun and
Oh
Paulo.
no.
I'm gonna go ahead and take Derik Queen, man.
Oh,
Derik Queen
oh.
does a little bit of everything. He fits my mold. He's even getting pretty decent steals and blocks for someone who's not, the picturesque person of athleticism. He has those quick hands, though, similar to Sengun. He has that dexterity, or not the traditional athleticism, but that, you know, type of athleticism that translates to high steal numbers, and that's quick hands. Derik Queen can score, he can pass the ball, he can rebound the ball, and New Orleans invested so much draft capital given their current situation for that unprotected pick that they sent over to the Atlanta Hawks. So they're going to really prioritize this guy. He's putting up huge numbers. I think he was the youngest player to put up a 30-point triple-double. Yeah, last game against San Antonio. So he has so many exciting flashes, man. I'm extremely excited for him, and I think he's a potential top 50 player in this next update that we're having. I'm certainly bumping him up way higher just because I see the fortune of what New Orleans put into him, that draft capital, but also he's just a good player that passes that eye test.
All right. I'm going to stop the Brandon Miller slide here.
Okay.
Stopping it here. Despite what you're seeing in today's exercise, don't sell Miller for peanuts. If you're worried about him and you're just getting bad offers from Dynasty League makes, just keep him and kind of just wait and see what happens because he has been dealing with some injuries. He's only played 9 games this year. This is a little bit more of a wait and see situation than try to sell and get out of it now because you probably won't get a great return anyways for what you should get for him. So let's see. Let's see. We got a lot of season left. Let's see how things go for Miller here. Maybe he does have a little bit of a bounce back on the back half of this season because at least what we're talking with on, the foundation here. This is a really, really good prospect, a really good scorer. I'm actually kind of, it feels like, well, he did come from the Wemby draft, but it felt like he was a little bit older. Yeah, he kind of maybe just made our cutoff. Yeah, he just turned 23 in November. So he basically just made our cutoff to be in here. So he's kind of one of the older players of this kind of class that we're drafting from here. But still, don't give up on Miller as a top 100 prospect yet. Keep holding, keep believing. I still believe in him. So that'll cover Brandon Miller. So now you kind of left me with a tough decision because I did really want. My plan was I was like, okay, I'll end the slide of Miller next, and then I don't think he's going to take both Castle and Queen, so I'm going to get one of them. And you took both, you bastard. So,
Great
um,
minds think alike.
yeah. So I'm in a little bit of a tough situation here, but let's see. I really like names like Modest Buzelis.
Take Ajay Mitchell,
However,
you coward.
no, don't tempt me. Um, let's see here. A few different options that I can go with. Now, this is somebody else that like there's a debate between a couple of rookies that I'm having right now. There's some big men that have having some good years. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna take a I'm gonna take a big man. I'm gonna take Zach Edey. I know
I love that.
the ankles are an issue so far, but when he's been playing, he's been a monster. 13 points, 11 rebounds, almost 2 blocks per game. He's not terrible at free throws either. He's definitely been improving himself quite a bit, especially this year, even though still Jaren Jackson is playing. So yeah, got to watch out for potential ankle issues, but I really do like the progression that we've seen from Zach Edey. He was such a beast in college, and it's he's able to get that to work a little bit for himself in the NBA. And Mitch, this was kind of a conversation started by you. We did have Zach Edey in the top 100 already, but like bumping him up inside of the top 70 was a discussion you started when we were working on these December ranks. So give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to pull up his game log really quick on your screen, after those first four or so games where he was coming back from injury, look at those numbers he's been putting up. Like 32 and 17 with 5 blocks, 19 and 15 with a block, 21 and 15 with 2 blocks. This is all like under 30 minutes per game. So at this range, near like the top 80, where most probably dynasty analysts kind of have him. You're not going to find a player with better per minute production. You just kind of have to hope that the injuries resolve itself. They're doing some precautionary measures right now with Edey where he's sidelined for three plus weeks, but you know, if he's able to kind of reintegrate himself and fix those ankle issues, similar to kind of how like Stephen Curry did, where his career had prolonged with the right treatment, this guy is going to be a top 50, top 30 monster if healthy in redraft leagues. So I love that pick for you, Andrew. He has that upside that you're looking for. And man, there's not another center prospect left on this board that can provide you those traditional big man stats, but also stats that won't hurt you because he is a better than average. He can almost even be a positive in free throw percentage if he does hit that 80% mark because of the volume that Zach Edey takes. All right, you did steal Edey from me, but
Yes, got you
that's
back.
okay. That's okay. I'm gonna go get Victor from Timu Kel'el Ware, another guy you're high on
Oh,
too.
yes.
Um, a lot of controversy with him, being with like Spo's Doghouse, where he's getting benched from time to time, but when he does play, he does insane amount of points, rebounds, blocks. He's also very young. And I think Kel'el Ware is eventually going to reintegrate himself into the rotation, similar to Jaime. It's kind of that thing where Spo kind of, he like where players have a great breakout season and then he benches them one year and then finally he regains their trust, similar to like Jaime Jaquez or a Duncan Robinson. Kel'el Ware is going to be fine. The talent is there. And he's going to really shape himself into being such a special prospect because the points, rebounds are there, the free throw percentage is there for a big man, the field goal percentage is there as well, and also the stock numbers over one steal and over one block a game in under 25 minutes is something that you really want in a center prospect. So Kel'el Ware is my pick there. My next one is kind of tricky because I don't want him to scoot too far out. Scoot, pun intended. Scoot Henderson is who I'm
Ah,
also referring to.
I was just about to
But
ask
there's
if that's a preferred pun.
no, it is. It definitely
Okay.
is. But
Okay.
there's another player that has really erupted this season, and he's a 20 point per game guy. I think he's over 6 or 7 assists. I'm going to take Keyonte George from the same draft class because,
Uh-huh.
man, 23 points per game, 6.8 assists. The free throw percentage is at 90%. He figured out his field goal. Man, like,
I
there's
mean,
going to be a real
every
rise.
year we get at least one kind of just emergence of a player that nobody saw coming. Like there's nobody in this just industry that's like, guys, just keep waiting. Keontae George is going to go up. Everyone was like, no, the future or point guard of the future in Utah is Walter Clayton. There's even some that thought it was going to be Isaiah Collier. The point guard job's not suited for Keontae. This year, this is insanity. Absolute
Yeah.
insanity what's been happening with him. Let's see some of these game like some of this game log right here. Yeah, most recent game, 39.6 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals. Jesus.
Yeah,
Uh
the numbers are very real. Utah is a lot more competitive this year. Larry Markkanen's playing a lot better. Yeah, I think they found their point guard of the future. And if you can grab Keontae and, you know, I don't know if a lot of dynasty lists are updated right now, but I assume he's barely outside of the top 100 unless it's a very recent update. Use those resources to your advantage and be savvy and take Keontae if he's being valued at that range still. If people think it's just like a fluke or kind of a flash in the pan type of performance this season, go ahead and grab him because you see the upside, man. That's like top 50 production, high volume scoring, and Utah is going to look to compete next year. This is probably their last tanking year as their young talent has now erupted. So yeah, love that Keontae pick there. We were actually very high on him, Andrew. I think we gave him a lottery grade, even though he was drafted outside of the lottery for our
okay.
pre-draft process. So, we were always high on Keontae. Don't get this wrong. But yeah, Keontae George, super excited, especially if he can even dip his production to like 20 points. Someone who gives you 20 points, 2 3, 7 assists, you're not finding better value here in this range.
All right. The next decision is tough for me because there's two guys I really want that I'm super high on. There's one guy that the industry's super high on that I probably should take here. Oh, do I give in to peer pressure or not? Let's
Who
see.
are you who are
So
you thinking?
the three options I'm considering, I have to leave one of them out. Modest Buzelis, Tre Johnson, and Ace Bailey. As
Hmm.
as an individual, I really like both Modest and Trey. I know the rest of the industry really likes Ace Bailey, and he probably should be taken pretty soon here. Um, Let me ask you this: have we been really seeing the progression that we should be seeing out of Modest this year, or is it a little bit more of kind of what was happening last year? 13 points, 5 rebounds, 1.6 assists. The blocks look great, 1.4, 28 minutes a night. This is actually a pretty big step up from last year from his rookie season, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. So there is a pretty good breakout happening right here for Matas. Good from the line too. Yeah, things look pretty well from him. So, the decision that I had is coming down between like, do I have to take Ace Bailey here or not? Because I was always on board the train of I liked Tre Johnson more than Ace Bailey as a prospect. I know Tre Johnson dealt with an injury issue that did kind of affect the beginning of the season, and then Brian Keefe has been pumping some minutes and usage still through CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton. So Trey is somebody I expect to explode a little bit in February. Like he's somebody that I really labeled as possible to achieve that 20 point per game status, like kind of what Kon Knueppel is doing right now, basically. I looked at Tre Johnson as one of the best scorers in this class. I know the peripheral stats aren't great, and that's never really something I thought was there, but there's a chance for there to be great scoring, 3 point output, and free throw percentage output too. Um, and that's something I really like from a possibility with Tre Johnson. Ace Bailey has been okay, not great, not bad. So I'm gonna go with my gut of players that I believe in here. I'm gonna take Madas first. This is someone I've made a video on. You can see that on our YouTube channel. And then a rookie who I believed in more than Ace from the start. I know this is potentially controversial. I'll take Tre Johnson here. So I'll go with my gut for those two, Madas and Tre Johnson.
Okay, yeah, I still like the modest pick. Pre-draft, he was number 3 on our board. Revisionist history maybe goes down to 4 or 5 now that we've seen how great Stephon Castle is. But I think Mata still has that unique statistical profile that you really want in like a small forward, power forward. He'll give you some threes. He's going to give you blocks that everyone loves. And the scoring just hasn't been there yet that we were hoping for. We were hoping for at least like 18 points. He's like at 13. But most of the big jumps happen your third or fourth year. Like look at Jalen Suggs or like a De'Aaron Fox, right? Like those type of players explode in year 3 or 4, or most, guys on that rookie deal. So I think Modest is gonna get there, that 18 to 20, just not this season. So I still love that pick. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take Ace Bailey because, just looking at his profile now, he's looked a lot more confident. He's been a better shooter than what we expected at 44%, a respectable 35% from three. He does give you some pretty good steals and like half decent blocks for 23 minutes a game. And he's probably their most talented prospect in terms of scoring outside of like Alari Markkanen. I think eventually when he hits his prime, Keyonte will defer to Ace Bailey just because he is that more of a three-level scorer than a Keyonte is. But Ace Bailey at 6'7" with a 7 foot wingspan, uber athletic, can do a little bit of everything, gives you those stocks. And, for a rookie, those percentages have actually boosted from college. So I'm going to go ahead and take Ace Bailey here because I think there's a lot of untapped potential for him. All right, so this next one, it gets pretty hard here. You can go a lot of different ways. Um, going back to my conversation with you earlier, I'm gonna go ahead and take Scoot Henderson.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
there's a lot of discouragement and pessimism around his prospects, but even with True back and even with Damian Lillard back in Portland, they need to at least showcase him as a potential trade piece if they don't believe in him moving forward for the team's kind of future vision. And if he does perform well, this is someone that we're incredibly high on. I think we had him second, as did everyone in the pre-draft process because of his athleticism. He can give you good steal numbers. He is a pretty good passer. His finishing is a little less than to be desired, but he is a smaller guard. Um, and I think like you can't pass up on the upside when we really haven't seen him in a featured role yet. And I'm not going to sell him until we see that happen, right? He's never really had the opportunity to run the show, but when he does, then we'll really see what he has in store, and it'll give me a more confident approach on whether to buy or sell him. But at this price, around like the top 70 range where most people have him, I think he's a clear buy until we see otherwise.
All right, very good. I'm thinking I'm going to keep this conversation in Portland. 10 points, 10 rebounds, 1.4 blocks for Mr. Kling Kong. Yeah, we're going to keep this conversation in Portland. I'm going to take Donovan Clingan here. I almost said it backwards. So Clingan has looked good, good progression from last year. I know there was a kind of a minutes restriction last year. So the fact that he's at 21 games played, 25 minutes a night, the body is holding up with more stability this year. The minutes load has increased from last year, and he's averaging a double-double right now. So great things happening with Clingan. He was, one of the better center prospects from last year's class, and things look good. I believe the free throw percentage is 81%. Wow.
Wow, very good.
Wow. Going from 59% to 81% is some drastic improvement. I'm very curious to see if that holds next year. And he's attempting 2.8 three-pointers per game, shooting 25%. We could potentially be looking at a sleeping like the dragon has not yet awoken for NAD category dominance for Klingon, but if it does happen, this free throw percentage maintains, and then all of a sudden he's making one or two three-pointers per game, still averaging this double-double with a block. This is a serious nine-category player right here. Is this a little bit of a sleeper right here going on with Klingon, Mitch?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to Edey, where, people kind of forgot about him because of the new excitement of the 2025 draft class. But Klingan is someone that we thought was a mid-lotto grade. I think we had him around 7 and very justified because you see those block numbers, you see those rebound numbers, and if he's expanding his game to the three-point line, that's a lot to be, happy about, especially because he's not providing you just with those traditional big man stats. Health is always going to be a concern with these 7 foot giants. Yes, but you win championships through risk. And if Donovan Clingan is healthy in the playoffs for you, when he's erupting and he's ascending, he could be a league winning player.
Absolutely. All right, I got a couple different options for this last pick here. I think I'm gonna go with the one my gut has been telling me to go with. Zero Fears, Jeremiah Fears. I mean, on a team that's as depleted as New Orleans, and for a rookie guard, still having respectable efficiency, 44%, 36 from three, 80% from the line. As a probably undersized rookie, 6'3", I doubt he's 190. He's probably more like 175. This is insane. This is somebody like when we had Dizzle Dynasty on our pod in the summer, we talked about Fears as like a second year player or potentially even a second contract player just because we thought he was a bit raw. It would take a little bit longer. And then this is someone who's probably going to blossom into much more of a reliable player as he got older, as he added size. And then, of course, the point guard position is the hardest one to adjust to for a rookie in the NBA, for a young player in the NBA. Jeremiah Fears is way ahead of schedule right now. This is someone you should be valuing as a top 100 asset, even on a team as bad as New Orleans. With him as one of the focal points on offense, he's still getting his shots off. He still has respectable efficiency. Did you see this coming out of Fears this year, or do you think it was going to take a little bit longer for him too?
Yeah, I thought it was going to take longer for sure. But after 5 games or so, he supplanted Jordan Poole from the starting lineup. And that goes to show how much they believe in Jeremiah Fears as a prospect, but also in his, you know, contributing skills. New Orleans doesn't have a pick. They're using him because they think he's valuable to winning. Yes, the result isn't there yet. I think they only have like 4 wins or so, but Jeremiah Fears is someone that they're going to prioritize, especially now that we've seen him play over Jordan Poole in the pecking order.
Absolutely. All right,
All
Mitch, you
right.
got your last two back to back here. The floor is open. There's a few names that are on our little database here where there's some good names still to pick from. So there's definitely going to be some solid guys left out. Maybe some people will find it controversial. But you went immediate with Cedric Coward. Let's hear about
Yep, I did it before you're finished talking, and
it.
I was thinking about this one for the entire time now. He's that perfect player, like that J-Dub type guy, uber efficient. Efficiency dipped a little bit, NBA teams are figuring him out, but he's been bouncing back since then, he does a little bit of everything. The assists are up, rebounds, tremendous rebounder given his like 7'2" wingspan at 6'5". He's a great shooter. He's gonna be fearless. He's gonna take threes. He is that number 7 prospect for me when going into the draft, right behind that tier of like Ace, Trey, Con. Maybe he moves over Trey now. He certainly does for me, but I don't know about you. But Cedric Howard has beat all the expectations, and it was one of my hot takes that he'd supplant KCP in that starting lineup, and he certainly did earlier than a quarter into the season. And he's going to be a great building block for the Memphis Grizzlies. And they're just so much fun when they play like Coward, Edey, Wells, that younger lineup with like even Pat or Cam Spencer. They're so free flowing, and Coward kind of fits in an indie kind of offense, really, just because of how malleable he is as an offensive and defensive player. All right, last one. And really
Ooh.
surprised, and I'm really surprised you didn't take him because of how much you're harping on him. It's not AJ Mitchell, by the way. It
Oh.
is Kyshawn George. I'm
I know that
surprised
was a
you
tough
did not.
decision for me. That was a tough decision. Between him and Fears, that's what it was for the last one, but I ended up going with Fears. I really like Keyshawn.
Yeah, man, like yes, the steals dip from last year. I don't know what happened at that end. But the efficiency, 47% from the field, 44% from three-point line. You know, he's giving you those out of position assists. Rebounds are solid. If he ever brings those steals up to last season numbers, this guy is what, like a top 40 player. But man, like he just does a little bit of everything without much usage. And yeah, I feel very happy taking him here as my last pick in this exercise.
All right. Excellent, excellent pick. I was worried that you would pick I don't know, someone like Sharp or McCain. I was worried that Keyshawn would go undrafted. I was very worried about that. I'm going to round this off with Ajay Mitchell. Got his opportunity with J-Dub injured, looked absolutely excellent when he did. Um, just this is someone obviously we were very probably the highest in the industry on him coming out of the draft. Graded him as a first round prospect. People were like, why do you care about this second rounder so much? Because he's a very, very good basketball player. Even as an older prospect, he's solid. He's Jamal Murray-esque when he plays. I know now that J-Dub is back, his minutes have gone down a little bit, but this is kind of more so the circumstance of OKC being that stacked. It's not really anything that AJ is doing wrong. It's just that OKC is that good. So if there's, a situation in the future where OKC can't afford to keep everybody, which is coming, that is coming, his role will obviously really go up because he's on a super cheap contract right now. So with that contract, he's probably somebody that they want to keep. They might get rid of someone more expensive like a Lou Dort or something like that once everybody's extensions really start to kick in, especially with SGAs, which hasn't kicked in yet. So Mitchell moving forward, solid prospect to have, even though he is on the older side. I think he's going to be kind of on the older side of our criteria. He should be either 22 or maybe he's already 23. He is already 23. So he kind of just made the cutoff for us, but solid player to have. I know there's some guys undrafted in this exercise who are much younger than him. So, Mitchell, one name quite high up on our list previously, maybe not so much moving forward, that didn't get drafted here. Derek Lively. Other names not drafted: Shaden Sharp, Jabari Smith, Jared McCain, Colin Murray Boyles, Ron Holland, Yegor Demon, Kason Wallace, Bilal Coulibaly. Any names from that particular group I just mentioned that you wanted to add a quick word on as why they weren't drafted today?
Uh, Not necessarily why they weren't. I think just everyone that we took here is pretty securely in our top 100, but I'm a little surprised Jabari Smith didn't. He's
Yeah,
contributing to winning. His stocks are up. He's
that's
looking
probably my
great.
biggest surprise is the Jabari snuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about him or Kyshawn, but I think Keyshawn has more on-ball juice, where he can expand his game a little bit more. Versus Jabbar, we kind of know what he's doing, but he's doing it at a higher efficiency level. He's a safe pick, don't get me wrong, and I still believe he is a top 100 asset in Dynasty. But quick shout out to Jabari Smith for me, and also Shaden Sharp, just because he is that 20 point per game guy. The efficiency isn't necessarily there where you want it to be, but if you're looking for a high upside player, he's also an honorable mention for me.
Yeah, honorable mention for me would be Yegor Demon, showing some good things out there in Brooklyn. Another player I've always been pretty high on is Bilal Coulibaly. I know time's kind of running out for him to get a bit better, but he is still super young. I think he's only still 21.
Yeah,
So there's a little bit of time
21.
left here. But yeah, Yegor and Bilal are two other guys I could have seen be drafted here. Yegor especially, I would not have been shocked to see him get drafted in this exercise here. But we only had spots for 30 guys. So this is the 30 that ended up getting drafted. Here's Mitchell's full team from top to bottom: Victor Wembanyama, Amin Thompson, Chet Holmgren, Alex Sarr, Dylan Harper, Jalen Duren, Reed Sheppard, Steph Castle, Derik Queen, Kel'el Ware, Keyonte George, Ace Bailey, Scoot Henderson, Cedric Coward, Kyshawn George. How do you feel about that squad, Mitchell?
It feels tough, man. I feel like I could beat anybody on your squad. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I feel really good in terms of like the value and the type of prospects that I'm high on.
Very good. All right. My full squad, top to bottom: Cooper Flagg, Alperen Sengun, Paolo Banchero, Josh Giddey, VJ Edgecombe, Ausar Thompson, Kon Knueppel, Dyson Daniels, Brandon Miller, Zach Edey, Modest Buzelis, Tre Johnson, Donovan Clingan, Jeremiah Fears, Ajay Mitchell. So that will do it for us today. That is our exercise of 30 players under the age of 23 from a dynasty perspective. So if you like this content, give us a follow. We are on the road to 500 subscribers. Leave a like. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.